ISC squared meeting. What? What? Did you lose it?
I think we lost it for a second.
Just the first second? What? They can't hear me? You good? We good?
Keep going now.
Keep going now. Okay. All right. So hopefully everybody can see me. They're probably on a bit of a time delay. So as we stream out, I'll keep going, and then Wes, if you get it working, great. So here we are at our July meeting. It's a hybrid meeting because we've got folks connected virtually, and then we've got all of you wonderful folks that are here tonight. So I appreciate you coming out. So we did our little check-ins. You guys got to network. You've had some dinner, which is great. So now we're going to kick off with some announcements, and then we'll bring up Ian, and then we'll do our little surprise later on. 8x8 is who helps us out with the virtual platform that we've been using for the last year. Andy Jalbert he's a chapter member, and he's helped us out with this. Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So thank you to Andy if he's watching. Much appreciated. Yes, very much so. The other thing I just realized, Wes, is you could probably hit record within 8x8 to record the meeting as well. But are you recording it through OBS?
I am.
Okay, we'll just leave it on OBS. All right. So got a big shout out. We got to reinitialize all of our sponsors again because we haven't asked them for any money lately, or at least our education sponsors like ECPI, Valencia, UCF. Extremely appreciative of them. But our other folks like Gold Sky and Intelligence Services Group, which we got Bob Henderson here with us tonight. Always appreciative. Thank you very much, Bob, for being here and supporting the chapter. But we got to get this slide updated, so we'll be looking for some folks. So before I go any further, I want to invite up Mr. David Cruz and just have him talk to you guys real quick about ECPI, because we got this space for free because of David. So come on up, David. I'm going to give you this microphone just for a minute while you talk, so that way the folks out in La La Land can hear you. So.
Okay, so you want me to hold it like this? Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Most of you I know here, so you know what ECPI is about. We have a cybersecurity program. I'm the cybersecurity program director for the cybersecurity program, and I just want to let you know a couple of updates that we have. We started our one-year bachelor program. So basically, if you have a bachelor in any discipline, you get a bachelor degree in 1 year with us. We started that this year, and it's going very well. And I want to also let you know that we are hiring. We're looking for adjunct instructors. So if you have a master's degree, come and see me, and we can talk about it. If if you need a space, let us know. Or let me know. You can take one of my cards. If you need a space, we have it available for you. And also, I wanted to let you know that we always looking for speakers. If you want to speak, we can do virtual, and we can do physical. We have over 3,000 students all over the United States. So if you wanna be a speaker, please let me know. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, James, for inviting us here to talk, and I appreciate your time. If you have any questions or anything else you need, let me know.
Sounds good. Thanks, David. Much appreciated. I was chatting with someone earlier and saying how long I've known David, like 8 years now, going back to the days of ISSA when we ran the Central Florida chapter. So, cool. Well, again, thank you to ECPI. I appreciate being able to come back out here. Like I said, ironically, this is where we were when the pandemic hit last time and where we had our last meeting. So glad to be here. For those of I recognize a lot of you, but there are some new faces here tonight. So really glad that you could make it out and be here. But one of the things, and I actually got to do a presentation for ISC Squared on this last month, where I talked about the foundations of the ISC Squared chapter program. And they came out with that when the chapter program, or when I joined as chapter president in 2017. And pretty well everything is all based around connect, educate, inspire, and secure. Those 4 principles. I'm not going to deep dive into it, but one of the things I really do like about the chapter program, the chapter programs from all the different groups from ISC Squared is this foundation that they have. So pretty well everything we try to do centers around one of these 4 things. So tonight you're getting connected. Hopefully get a chance to connect with some folks you haven't seen in a year or whatever. Get some education from Ian. Education, hopefully, maybe. We'll see. Might get inspired and hopefully maybe add a little more security to the world. So we'll see. So, I think I've pretty well met everybody, but if I haven't, I'm James McQuiggan. I am the chapter president. We've got Walter Spielman in the back. He's the chapter vice president. You've met the fine gentleman when you walked in the door. That's Christopher Hickernell, who handles all of our membership. The other fine folks couldn't be here this evening. Debbie's working. She's out on the road up in Maryland traveling. Tom is coming back from Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, had a family emergency. Amy's stuck down in St. Pete with their work. Robert is coming back from vacation, and Paul is at home. His wife had some family issues. So it's just me, Walter, and Christopher here tonight, supporting y'all. All right, so let's talk about some upcoming events. So August and September, where'd David go? Is he still in the room, or he left? He just walked out. No, okay, never mind. I was going to ask him, hey, can we come back? Hey, David, can we come back in August? Yes. Okay, so we're going to be back here next month. All night I've been going, I got to ask David, and I just let it slip my mind. We'll come back here. We'll be back here again next month. Haven't found a speaker yet, so if you want to speak for David, you're more than welcome to come speak for us. But the big one is going to be in October when we do our annual meeting. Hopefully by that point things have calmed down even more. We're going to do, fingers crossed, toes crossed, legs crossed, whatever. We will be back at Sluice. I'm in discussions with them right now, and we will. Kind of like what we did a couple of years ago with our annual event, where we'll have some presentations, we'll have a little expo center set up, and we're doing this the night before ISC Squared kicks off. So we'll have a separate registrations for that from ISC Squared's Congress. Just if you're going to Congress and you registered for that, you still got to register for our event. Our event doesn't get you into Congress, so just make sure you remember that. We'll do a silent auction. We'll probably have some swag. We're working on that. And we'll do another big event. We're going to be back in the same space, but they've renovated Theater 3 there at Sluice. They've got a bigger stage, which is great because I like to have a big stage. Going to put in some more lighting. They got a big grant that came in. He got like $1 million, so he's all excited. So he's getting us some cool equipment for that event. So real excited about that. And we'll do a big dinner and wine and beer and door prizes and all that cool stuff. So that'll be October. So speaking of that event, we're looking for sponsors. So if you're a company or you know somebody or an organization that wants to help sponsor, let us know because we're going to be looking for money because this ain't cheap. But it's a lot of fun. This is a really, really, really cool event. I know Ian will probably touch upon this when he gets up here. But September 17th and 18th, we're going to have B-Sides Orlando, but it's going to be a little different this year. They're kind of doing this like smaller version, but it's like specific 4 areas: physical challenge, reverse engineering, hardware hacking, cloud, and Kubernetes. But even if you don't know anything about any one of these 4, you can still sign up. You got to submit a video and say why you'd be awesome at it. Creativity is key for those, I'm guessing, because Ian's like me, theater background, gotta love the creativity and what you can do that's fun and different. So. But they have some videos, and if you want the deck, let me know, and I'll send it to you. But go out to bsidesorlando.org. You can find out all the information. But it'll be a live stream, so you'll be able to watch it if you don't want to participate. So very cool. We're real excited that we get B-Sides Orlando bite-sized. That was what I was going for before. Bite-sized with Chompy. So with Chompy. He's apparently running the show this year, so God help us. No, it'll be fun. It'll be good. Okay. Nah. Why is my clicker working? Oh, something popped up. Cancel. All right. There we go. All right, so I said it before, we're not the only game in town. We just try to be the best. Anyway, Patrick Heisinger is here from the Central Florida ISSA chapter. You guys are shooting for a September half-day event, right?
Half-day on Friday the 10th.
Friday the 10th. So that'll be their half-day event. CSNP, second Thursday of every night. Bob, who have you got lined up for the CISO this month?
It'll be Santiago. Christianity, largest healthcare in Delaware.
Okay, so large healthcare CISO. Cool. Awesome.
The week after, World Food Services, CISO, Popeyes, and Burger King is now World Food Services in Miami.
World Food Services CISO. Okay, cool. I'm having to repeat it because the folks can't hear you through the microphone. So.
He'll be in, and really, and then September, we're going to have Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, the CISO.
Cool. Federal Reserve Bank CISO. Awesome. Citrusec, you guys, anything?
Not back yet.
Not back yet.
Maybe next month.
Maybe next month. Okay, cool. And then ISAC, I know they're still kind of on hold. Speaking of the whole CISO thing, and I'm going to do a shameless plug because I'm up here and I got the mic. But if anybody's on Clubhouse, and if you're not, you want to jump on it because it's really cool. It's like going to a conference without having to leave your home. So for the folks that are at home, it's really, really cool. But Clubhouse, it's an auditory drop-in chat where you can go into rooms and listen to people speak. Well, Bob and I run a room on Wednesday mornings at 7 a.m. Don't roll your eyes because it's too early in the morning. You can have your cup of coffee. You don't have to look presentable. You can sit there and just listen. But in Clubhouse, we do the best Clubhouse or the best room in Clubhouse. And the best is BEST, Bleeding Edge Security Talk. So cheesy acronym, dad joke, whatever. It works. It works. But we talk to a CISO every Wednesday morning. So last week we had Olivia Rose, fantastic. Wednesday morning we have Nicole Dove, who is the CISO for Warner Media. Holy cow, that's going to be fantastic. The BISO, sorry, the Business Information Security Officer. We're going to ask her what the difference between a CISO and a BISO is. But anyway, shameless plug. What was that? Oh, yeah.
Can you just drop in, or do you need an invite?
Nope. If you go out to Clubhouse, look for me or look for Bob. But also on LinkedIn, we do have, huh? Clubhouse is a drop-in audio chat with rooms where you can go in and listen to people talk. It's real popular with a lot of cybersecurity folks. It's become popular with different regions. And so I know that now it's open. You don't need an invite to get in. It used to be real all hush-hush, secret, passwords and stuff. Now anybody can join. You can do it from your phone. And there's a room that, when you get connected, it'll ask you what interests you have. So cybersecurity, tech, IT stuff. But when you go in, you can go find people. Well, go look for me or look for Bob. Or if you follow us on LinkedIn, you'll find that we're going to be sharing the link to the Clubhouse room for Wednesday 7. Yeah. Clubhouse is owned and run by LinkedIn now? Has it? Oh, I thought it was run by the Chinese. Okay. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay. So there you go. So check out Clubhouse. If you need more information, drop me a note, ping me, text me, or find me afterward. All right, so let's talk about some chapter information. So we're at 204 active members. We kind of slipped. At the beginning of the year, we were kind of around 220. We kind of been dropping down. I've been trying to reach out to folks and get them to renew. But here's our new members. So I know that we have Michelle is here tonight. She's one of our new members. We're really excited. For those of you that are in the room, if you do see your name up here, I've tried to make sure. But if you are, come see me afterward. I got something for you. So our renewed members. So I did a little something different this time. The number is how long you've been a member of the chapter. So that's really, really cool. So Jay's 7 years a member of the chapter. Cool. Thank you for renewing. Appreciate that. Walter's 4 years. Ken, 5 years. Cool. I'm thinking I might be missing somebody, but Christopher Gorgian, who ironically is the ISSA treasurer, but he joined the chapter. He's been 9 years since the beginning. This one's that was for July. Here's all our June renewals. Michael Gerard, Mark Palmer, Amy Palmer, John Clifton, 9 years. So those folks have been around since the beginning, long before I got involved. So real excited. Thank you again for your membership, for being a part of it. Upcoming, so if you see your name up on the board, you're up and coming. This is before September of 21. Hickernell, you're up there, but we know you'll renew. This is the folks that are up and coming. Here's the folks that have expired. There's about 24 of them, so sad face. So hopefully I'll get an email out to them to ask them to reconsider and renew. All right. ISC Squared Security Congress coming up in October. Like I said, we're going to do our annual event the night before we kick off. But you can attend it online for $450. So, or you can go in person because it's here in Orlando and it'll be down at the old Peabody or the Hyatt Regency. So, great way to network again and everything else.
And early bird savings is on Friday.
Early bird ends on Friday, so hurry up and register. I got my ticket, so I'm good. Okay, so now we'll get on to the presentations. I'm really excited. When we hit the pandemic last year, We did an event in April, and it was just all the board members talking about how we were coping with the pandemic. The following month, when we really kind of got back into our swing of things, or a couple months later in August, I reached out to this gentleman to say, hey, look, I need a speaker. We're looking for somebody. You got anything you want to talk about? I think we'd been talking, and he was going to give a presentation. I'm like, cool, you want to give it to the chapter? So Ian came along and presented to the chapter. So I'm real excited the fact that as we come back in face-to-face, or for those folks that are here, we've got Ian back here today, and he's going to give a presentation that you're going to be giving shortly soon somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Hopefully.
You get a preview of it.
So we get a sneak peek, a preview. Which is another fancy way of saying we get a preview. So on Broadway, this is where we can critique it and tell him things he can remove and add and that kind of stuff. So whether he listens, we'll see. So, but Ian is the president for the B-Sides Orlando. As I know he likes to say, he's got an incredible team that works for him, and they are fantastic. I know the feeling. But he also teaches over at Full Sail. You finished, not that this is horrible, but you came in 3rd or 4th on your social engineering CTF? 5th, okay.
My first time up there.
First time up there, did fantastic. And it was it Aleth? No, Rachel? Aleth won that, and she killed it, yeah. Aleth, we had presented the chapter earlier this year or late last year. But yeah, it's fantastic. So real grateful and appreciative of Ian, braving the elements and coming all the way up here to Lake Mary to present to us. So that just says Ian right there. But, there's the real professional picture, So Ian, come on up. I will swap out here. I'll leave that there, and I'll give you the microphone too, so that way everybody can hear you.
Yell loud enough that they can hear
Gotcha.
all the way through the internet.
You gonna? I say kill the audio from this while it swaps over.
There we go. That should work. You want to bring the audio up and check the levels? Good? Okay. Let me see if this is going to work. Hey, look at that. Cool. So thank you. Oh, delivery service. I mean, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Oh, wonderful. I know, right?
I opened it in front of you so you wouldn't think I was.
Right. So thank you for the warm welcome. As was said, my name is Ean Meyer. Pleasure to be here. I love giving talks like this. Yes, what? I spelled Florida wrong. Well, you spelled my name wrong. So it is Florida. Yeah. You put Myers. I wasn't gonna call you out, but because you did.
Good.
But because you did, now I even worked up a joke. I'm like, over the course of the pandemic, the jacket got tighter. Maybe I am plural now. So anyway. You know what's funny? I misspelled cubicle the other day in a deck, but I assure you I speak better than I spell. So yeah, my name is Ean Meyer. James already went through most of who I am, but if you're curious, it's up here. Essentially, he already covered all this other stuff, and the only reason I include this slide is because later, if you grab the PDFs or you're talking to any of your leadership about anything that I'm talking about, you can say, who's the lunatic with the nunchucks that said we should do this stuff? And you can say, well, that's the lunatic. He has some credentials. He's done a few things, master's degree, all that good stuff. So speaking of the slides, you can go right now and get the Florida deck, which is limited edition. You should go get it. Because that deck, if you use that QR code or you type in that bit.ly link, it'll take you to my Google Drive, and that will give you a PDF. So for those of you who are at home, if you say, oh, I've got some visibility issues, or I'd like to be able to read ahead, or I'd like these slides, they are available now. You can get them, and you can view them in real time. I would generally, I'm going to make the joke because I feel like now I have to. Just whenever the thing pops up and it says accept, just click through everything, and just when it says USC, just click that. Don't worry about the, no, I'm kidding. That's just going to take, it's a bit.ly link, takes you to a Google Drive. I would send my grandmother there, but. So that said, what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, we're going to talk about ethical fisheries. All right, so what do I mean by this? Now, this is a term that I came up with, right? Over the course of the pandemic, there were some news stories. We're going to talk about them now. And what we're seeing is the types of phishing exercises that we run as security professionals. We got to start thinking, how much good are they actually doing, right? Why are we doing them? Do we feel like they're giving us a lot of value? And I was sitting kind of thinking, the news stories that came out that we're going to cover in a second, and I said to myself, wait a minute, there's an allegory here. There's absolutely an allegory here for the security industry. So let's not talk about ethical fisheries. Let's talk about ethical fisheries. So I've got a lot of gray in my beard here. As a matter of fact, if we go back here, I meant to point this out. James had the professional photo. This was taken when my wife was pregnant with our 4th child, and this was a couple months ago. You'll notice a distinct difference in beard color. So, same thing. The reason I say that is I remember when they first started having conversations about depleting the ocean. Right? Depleting the fish in the ocean, the different species, how we're actually fishing, how we do conservation, how we make it sustainable. So I remember this, right? You got these big boats out there. I actually love this because I almost changed this. I'm like, no, just dragon's kind of funny. But they'd put these huge nets out, and they'd bring back all kinds of fish, right? But they might get dolphins. They might get other types of fish that they didn't mean to scoop in, and they were actually doing a lot of damage to the ocean. They had a need to do this kind of fishing to meet demand. People wanted fish, they needed those fish, they needed that to feed the families, they needed to make money, whatever it was. But the problem was in the end, they were going to overfish. They weren't going to be able to do this. It was no longer going to be effective. And that's really the point of this entire talk as we talk about what does sustainable overfishing have to do with ethical fishing, like we deal with in security, right? What does it have to do with it? So the first thing is there's actually, fortuitously, a talk, the WTO has a talk right now, talks going on right now about actual fishing rules for international fishing off the coast, right? So I was like, oh, that's interesting. But that's to talk about the fishing, and I put fishing for the PH there, the fishing industrial complex, right? We have a fishing industrial complex. I won't call out names of certain vendors because some of them, have employees that work here. I'm like, no, get my water here. I don't need to be more caffeinated. So I'm not going to call that out, though, but we do have that right now. We literally have a commoditized product that we can say, all right, you've got a checkbox. You've got to go do this. You've got to do a fishing exercise to see how well your employees respond to this. PCI wants to know. Different auditors want to know. The board of directors wants to know. If we get a phishing email, how vulnerable are we? And what do we always test? We test the user. Because we've got this fishing industrial complex, right? We can go through and we can go to a vendor, say, give me an exercise, give me pre-built campaigns, send them out, and give me quantitative results. We started doing education, people clicked on less things. Okay. I mean, that's good. I really mean that. I don't mean to take anything away from that. But we're using fishing exercises as bait. And believe me, the fishing metaphors and puns and jokes don't stop, so they don't get any better either. So if you're looking to tip, forget about it. So we use them as bait, right? We have our employees, we have our teams, people that we need to protect as information security professionals that we're using essentially as bait, right? And we'll talk about the uncomfortable truth of that in a moment, of what we really use them for. We use them to go through and drive a point, but we don't partner with them. The fish, the people we're fishing, should be treated as a valuable resource. Does it matter? Think about this. I was wondering if I was even going to go into this. How many times have you worked at a company where someone has been objectively, quantitatively, mathematically, a terrible human, and yet they continue to work there? because they do great at sales, or they have some sort of relationship with a vendor that if they leave that vendor, that relationship goes away, right? Now that's a negative example of why that's a valuable resource to the company, right? We can't, even if they fail every fishing exercise in forever, they bring in $4 million in sales a year. It doesn't matter. We need them, right? Using a more positive and optimistic viewpoint, what we can say is it does matter for regular employees. You see people right now, companies saying, we can't hire enough. People don't want to come back into the office. They don't want to go back to these lower paying jobs. And who can blame them, really? If they've got the opportunity to look at a different career, not go back to something else, I can't blame them. They're a valuable resource. I can't go get more people. I can't generate them. I can't go through and just say, okay, go buy me more people. Buy them. Get them here tomorrow. Amazon Prime. Can't do it. So we want to make sure we're treating them with a certain level of respect. We'll talk about what I mean by that in a moment. So we need to perform conservation efforts or this resource will disappear. Not only your people, if you're working in an environment where you don't feel respected, you don't feel like what you're doing is valuable, and on top of it, you've got a security team making you feel foolish, you're going to stick around? No, absolutely not. You're going to go somewhere else. But even more than that, like I said, fishing exercises, going through and testing your controls is really valuable. Not only is it valuable, it's important. You need to do it. You need to figure out how well your email systems, how well your employees, how well everyone responds to a potential threat. But if we keep doing it the way we're doing it, throwing out huge nets and going, here's your training, you clicked on the fish, sooner or later, we're going to see these diminishing returns, and in the end, it's no longer going to be effective. Because people are going to say, no, we don't want this in our environment. It upsets our employees. It upsets people. They leave. And what did we really protect against? Your fishing exercise, right? So this is the point, and there's 2 points inside of here, where I am going to give you an uncomfortable truth warning. So everyone at home, there's an uncomfortable truth warning here that we're going to talk about. And if you don't like uncomfortable truths about security, please put your fingers in your ears, just hum to yourself, whatever you need to do. If you need to tell yourself security platitudes, like just say, elite, 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 or you say, oh, multi-factor will fix everything, or oh, just patch everything, why can't they do it? Whatever you got to do to feel good, do that while I tell you this uncomfortable truth. When you see me hold up the seminal album soundtrack from Hackers, you'll know that it's safe to return to the conversation. So, here's uncomfortable truth number 1. Phishing tests are currently about scaring executives, getting budget, checking boxes, and showing action. They do little to protect the organization. That is 100% fact, and I will argue with anybody that wants to do it. I already see James looking at me. He's like, we'll argue about this. They do little to protect the organization. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do them. That doesn't mean they don't have value. It just means that you're simulating a test, which is good. But what are you testing? You're testing the people. He's gonna look at me less gruff when I say that in a second. Because you're testing the people. You're not testing the controls. So, as is law, I think there's a federally mandated number of memes that you have to have in an InfoSec talk. So I have those now. I've met that minimum. But this is what we do, right? We go through and we say, hey, can we fix technical debt? And we go, no, we can't fix technical debt. The business has accepted the risk on this because they can't spend $1 million. Fishing exercise, that'll go through. And that'll allow us to actually have measurable, quantitative results that we can go back and say, we started to do training, we sent out these exercises, and these exercises showed that people were learning, and we sent out another exercise, they didn't click on the links as much. That is valuable. I absolutely don't disagree with that. Would it be is it more valuable than making sure that all your internet-facing web servers are fully patched? Absolutely not. Is it more valuable than making sure that all your network appliances at your perimeter are fully patched? Absolutely not. Is it valuable? Yes, it is. But here's the other thing. We send users an email, they click on it, and then we hit them with a page that says, oh, you fell for a fish, here's your mandatory training. That feels really bad in a lot of ways. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be done well, and we're going to talk about how to do that well. I keep looking out of the corner of my eye, and James is like, I'm going to murder you. You know who I work for, right? I told him this was coming. So, but the good news is as we go through it, you'll realize that I'm not actually hating on these types of things. There's tons of vendors that do it. But when we get to the scalpel slide, it'll start to make sense. But what's the real problem, right? It's this. If you've seen this meme format, you know, it's from Despicable Me. It's like we run a phishing exercise. They click on the link, and then we shame them with training. Teams then resent security. Teams resent security? Well, of course they do. Who wants to be told over and over again that you got tricked, that you were fooled, that you were foolish? Nobody does. So for those of you still whispering that zero trust is going to solve everything to yourself, I'm holding up the picture, and I've also now hit my federally mandated requirement of mentioning hackers in any InfoSec talk, so we can skip that from now on. So, anyway, I digress. So, let's tell a story, right? And this is really one of the cruxes of this talk and kind of what was the first seed germinating in my brain about the way we do phishing exercises is wrong. We need to do it differently to start getting the impact we need. So I worked at a company, and I'm not going to get into the details of the company or the people or whatnot, but I worked at a company where we did a social engineering exercise. Now you can use phishing as for social engineering and social engineering for phishing, and peanut butter and chocolate gets Reese's Pieces cups, but either way, we were doing this social engineering exercise, and I spent literally weeks getting it approved, talking with the compliance people in the organization, talking with the lawyers in the organization, making sure that our, you could call it a red team exercise because we were doing it unannounced with the teams that were there, and we were behaving like an attacker or the adversary, but we go through, and the exercise was this. The person who was doing it, which was an intern that worked for me, was going to try and use social engineering and open source intelligence to find out enough information about me to call into our service desk and get them to reset my password. I was a security engineer at that organization. You're literally calling into the help, I mean, it's like the bravado, right? The chutzpah. You know, you're calling in as an attacker, calling into the help desk and saying, I want this security engineer's password. He probably has privileges and rights and all this different stuff. So to simplify the story, we go through, and one of my things, and I quote Chris Hadnagy in here, and I quote him often, because even as I start to detoxify the way I think about information security and how I approach people, he's kind of a leader in that area. And one of the things he always says is leave people feeling better for having met them, right? If your interaction with them is always negative, if it's security coming around the corner telling you you've done bad, you clicked on a bad link, you're going to places you shouldn't go, no, if you do that over and over and over again, they're going to not come to you with problems, whether you're trying to help them or not, right? If any of you have kids, how often does your kid do something, you go, hey, what just happened? Nothing. Because they don't want to get in trouble. But if you've built trust with your child, and I'm not saying that all users are children, that's not the allegory here. What I am saying is if you've built trust with your child, they know they can come to you, and if they've made an honest mistake, you can help them solve it before it becomes a massive problem. And that's what you want. So getting back to the story, I go through and we do the social engineering exercise. They call into the help desk, and my rule that I set up with all the powers that be, I said, we are going to be successful, period. I'm telling you right now, they're going to get my password reset. And whichever help desk person on the other side of the phone does it, doesn't get a write-up, doesn't get punished, doesn't get fired, doesn't nothing. It is they got lucky. Even if they're the worst employee in the world, they're getting their get-out-of-jail-free card on this one. And why? because what the help desk hears if we fire that person is security's coming for the help desk. And if you screw up, you're getting fired. You're going to lose your job. Right? Do you know how many times I've gotten valuable information that has helped protect an organization because the help desk trusts me to come to me to say, hey, this person called in trying to do something. I think they're a scammer, or I think this is what's going on, or whatever it is. Because they trust me that they can bring that to me, I get that information early, and I can help protect the company better. But if they don't, that's going to be a huge problem, right? So, back to the call. They make the phone call. They get on the phone. The first call is just just kind of to see what they ask. We have to treat it exactly like an attacker, even though I know the policies and procedures and everything that you would need to reset this password. I have it in front of me. I'm in the building, right? I say, we have to behave like we're an attacker. So I say, because we're an attacker, you need to do intelligence gathering. So call in and just give them a fake name, an employee that doesn't exist. And then just ask them, well, hey, I'm supposed to be in the system. I'm a new employee. I need help. What do you need from me to reset my password? So that first person told them, because what's the harm in that, right? So you need these three things, right? And one of the things was an employee ID, not uncommon. Because an employee ID is unique to the organization. It's very difficult to go find, generally, employee IDs just in the wild, unless there's been a large breach, or they're predictable, or somebody has access to internal information, last four social, birth date, things like that. Especially in a spear phishing attack where you can target an individual, is pretty easy, right? So, they get to the point, they're on the phone, and they call now back as me. They've got all the information except the employee ID. He says, all right, what's your employee ID, Mr. Meyer? And they come back and they go, I need to move my hand away from the mic. They take the phone back, and he goes, I don't have it. And I just said, for those, I'm trying to get the hybrid and the whatnot. So like, I don't have that. And I just whisper, I'm like, just tell him you don't remember it. He's like, what? I don't remember my employee name. Just tell him you don't remember it. Just say the words. And he goes, I'm sorry, I don't remember it. And then I whisper, I'm like, tell him you're on site. You've got to get your password reset. You'd really appreciate the help. I'm whispering down. I'm like, you'd really appreciate the help. So he goes into it because we practiced part of it. He said, hey, I'm on site. I just really need some help. I'm trying to get something done. I need my password reset, and I'm here at the location. Can you help me out? Now, I'm sanitizing this a little bit because if I say what the location is, it's going to be very clear which company it is. But, and they say yes. They go through, and they go, well, if you don't have your employee ID, can you tell me this? Can you tell me, I forget what it was. It was like, can you tell me your internal extension at work? Well, that we were able to find. Could you tell me these other bits of information? I forget what they were, but it was like 3 bits of information that we could find. Now, I don't necessarily blame this person for doing this. They're doing their job, they're trying to help, and they've asked for 3 other bits of information. It's like, okay, well, if I've asked for these things, and I asked for these 3 other things, and they knew all of them, what are the chances that this isn't that person? And they reset my password. Here's the thing. A couple days later, I come in, I'm doing the debrief on it, and I find out that support desk person had been fired. And I was livid. I was furious. And I storm into a couple VP's offices, and essentially what I found out was that the person, the up chain that reported, on this service desk said, all right, well, if that happened, bring him in and fire him. And they're like, no, they said they can't fire him. Well, this person made one mistake, and they didn't log the ticket. That on its own was a fireable offense. I was still furious because I said, that should have been sitting down and getting the come to your chosen deity talk. You got lucky because you didn't log this ticket. That would have been a fireable offense, but that exercise was a get out of jail free card. They let him go. They used that as a reason to let him go. So I was livid. I was furious beyond measure. And what I knew would happen, happened. The help desk started talking. Don't talk to security. Don't go talk to them. They're looking for people to, they're running these exercises. Don't talk to them. Don't share anything. Don't do whatever. It ruined our trust with those team members. It didn't matter that the reason that person got fired was not logging a ticket. I've worked on lots of help desks when I was coming up. System's down, you're going to lunch, I'll log it when I get back. And you forget, you get busy, right? I don't know that that's what happened. I don't know if they didn't go, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and actually thought to themselves, hey, I'm just going to let that go. I'm going to let that one drop. No one's going to call me on it, right? Hopefully no one will try. I don't think that's what happened. Because by all measure, everyone else said to me that this was and that was the worst part, this was a really well-liked team member. So now this 30, 60, I think it's like 30 to 60 people on this help desk are now like, don't talk to security. Don't share information with them, because if you messed up, you're done. They didn't hear the other part. Didn't matter, right? So, knowing that is where kind of a lot of this comes from. We need ethical fisheries. You can't just spam out emails the same way that an attacker would. Because if you do, yeah, you're going to win. They're going to click on the link. I did it early in my career, I'll admit it, where I went through and sent, emails for phishing exercises that said, hey, your direct deposit changed. And I sent it on Friday at 4:30, mirroring exactly the template that our Oracle system or PeopleSoft or whatever you use uses. I mean, show of hands here. How many people get an email at 4? Yeah, exactly. You already know. Yeah, get an email at 4:45 on payday. And I think it was worse than that. I think it was during the holidays. Like, I was like a monster. Like, I'm doing penance at this point. So on the holidays, and saying your paycheck didn't come through. It looks exactly like all the other notifications you've ever gotten, and it says click here to log into the system to find out what happened. How many's clicking on that? Come on, seriously, nobody's clicking on that. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, check your bank account, see if it's there. Absolutely. I'm going to bring up an example of why. I'm not saying that y'all are fibbing. I'm just saying that maybe you're around a bunch of other professionals and maybe don't want to admit that maybe you could be talked into clicking on something like that. And it'll make sense in a minute what I mean. So what is an ethical fishery? What is it not? Right? So here are two very recent stories, right? One is GoDaddy. So they did a phishing test. Some of you may have heard about this. They did a phishing test, and after announcing that no employees are going to get any bonuses, 2020 has been very hard, and it's been very hard on a lot of businesses. I understand. They said nobody's getting any bonuses. It's the holidays, people are already struggling. And then a little bit later, they send out a phishing exercise that says, oh, you're not going to get your official bonus, whatever that number was, but we're canceling the Christmas party, we're canceling this, and click here to get a $650 gift card. A bunch of people clicked on it. And what they got was a landing page that said, oh, this was a phishing exercise, you clicked on a fish. And rightfully, those employees were furious. Yeah, exactly, they were mad. Worse than that, and this is local, Tribune Media, which owns the Orlando Sentinel, sent out an email, very similar, around the holidays. I think this was in September or whatever, but it was like heading into that holiday season. People are thinking, all right, what am I doing about Thanksgiving? What am I doing about Christmas? What am I doing about whatever holidays you celebrate in the winter? And they sent out one saying, hey, what was it? It was, workers that, it was a $10,000 bonus. So a lot of these employees were used to getting, bonuses in that range, and they said, hey, you got to click on this and get it. And no, they get a landing page, it's a phishing exercise. Can attackers do that? Absolutely. Attackers, though, aren't bound by rules. They don't have to show up and look those associates in the face the next day and say, hey, yeah, that was a fish, sorry. Yeah, I know that Dave Kennedy has a great story about this, where he was doing a phishing exercise. I think it was Trusted Sec at the time. He might have just been doing it as a consultant. But he tells a story about sending an email to the organization internally. It was around the holidays, and that you fill out this survey, and you're going to get, I think it was an iPhone or something like that. It's like, you've been selected. If you finish the survey, you get an iPhone. And it was from the company, and they said, this is what's going on. And he gets this response back from this mother in the organization that if you could feel tears through the email, you would have. And basically, it was this. It was saying, I've been struggling, and this is amazing, and I appreciate the company doing this so much. My daughter's been begging me for an iPhone, and I had no idea how I was going to pay for it, and this is a miracle, and thank you so much, and this, that, and the other, and filled out the survey. And he's like, I have to go buy an iPhone. And he went and bought an iPhone and gave it to her, because he's like, I have to go buy an iPhone. I can't live with myself. So he went and bought an iPhone, and he gave it to her. I'll be honest with you, I probably would too at this point in my life. I'd be like, I'm not gonna be able to sleep at night if after getting that email. And what would have been really funny is just like, well, this was a reverse social engineering exercise, and you failed, Dave. But no. So, we need, as security professionals, to think about those outcomes, right? About that person who sees that iPhone and says, oh, I will finally be able to give my daughter this thing. I've been struggling. We need to think about those employees who aren't sure how they're going to make their next rent check, because they've got other things going on. Maybe they're paid well. You don't know what's going on in their lives. Maybe they got medical bills. Maybe they got family members that they're supporting that can't work. You don't know. So, we need to think about how we do these phishing exercises. So, what is this? Somebody shout it out. Scalpel, thank you. Scalpel. A doctor, a well-trained doctor, can use this to save your life. Someone with a lack of training can use it to harm you. You, as security professionals, need to be the doctor. You need to be able to look at a scalpel and say, I could send the email that I know will get the clicks. I know it will, because I can use fear. I can use desperation. I can use these very human factors that attackers use. But I'll be honest with you, that's the easy route. That's playing through, I should have thought of a better game, but what's the one game that everyone can't play? It's like Demon Souls or Soul?
Dark Souls?
Dark Souls, thank you. That's playing through Dark Souls on easy mode, where you're not even playing on normal at that point, right? You need to be the surgeons, the doctors that look at the scalpel and say, yeah, I could cut through your aorta, and that'd be bad. Instead, I'm going to use this scalpel to make sure that you get the care that you need. Still a weapon, but you as a professional can use it differently. Because what we need to do is we need to attack the control. We don't need to attack the people. And that's what we've been doing, right? We've been saying, oh, but if all the controls fail, how many of you have set up a phishing exercise with either a known vendor or with Kingfisher or Go Fish Framework or anything like that, and what's the first thing they tell you to do? Shout it out if you know it.
Turn off your email security.
Thank you. Turn off your email security. Allow list our sender through whatever you've got. Proofpoint, what's the, Mimecast. I always want to call it Memecast. I'm like, that is not right. That would be a really cool appliance, though. It just streams memes directly through your network. So, they tell you to turn it off. Okay. Now all I've got to do is trick the human? Well, we've been doing that since the beginning of time. P.T. Barnum built an empire about that. Gypsies still exist, fortune tellers, all that good stuff. If you're a gypsy or fortune teller, I'm sorry. I'm not really. If you are a gypsy, actually one of my very dearest friend's wife is. And she jokes all the time. And she's like, don't insult gypsies, but whatever. I'm like, if you're going to curse me thinner, get to it. Okay? Right? Get doing it. So, that's right. I just need it. Anyway, so we need to attack the controls. I know I can trick somebody. What I don't know is how my controls in the environment will protect someone or what they need to be protected from. So let's talk about uncomfortable truth number 2. Again, fingers in ears, whisper to yourself about how risk acceptance is fine and cyber insurance will save us. Everyone can be phished. Period. even you, even everybody in this room, everybody at home, all of you, no exceptions. It's safe to return if you didn't want to hear that uncomfortable truth. And why do I say that? Frankly, because this guy can be fished. Chris Hadnagy, head of socialengineering.org, runs the social engineering village at DEF CON, has written, I think he is now releasing his 7th book on social engineering, covering topics of phishing, covering topics of how the human brain reacts to certain situations, using all of his knowledge that he's built up running his company, doing phishing exercises, was phished. And that video, which I highly recommend you watch, is his TEDx talk where he talks about it really for the first time. Because he actually says, he's like, now he tells the story all the time. It's like a hallmark of all of his talks. So if I'm stealing his thunder, I love the guy to death. He's
He presented for us at,
did he talk? What I was about to say, I'm not sure he actually talks about, so I'm not going to mention it.
he covers the Amazon story.
No, not that. I was where he's moved to. Yeah, anyway, yeah. So, I need to make sure he's done that before I say that. So anyway, he wonderful human, and he tells this story for the first time really on this TEDx talk, right? And basically, what the story is he's running the DEF CON SECTF village. He's heading to DEF CON, and watch the talk because he tells it 100 times better than I could and tells you the science behind it and what happened and all this different stuff. But if he told it for this chapter meeting, I'll keep it succinct. Essentially, he is running this huge village at DEF CON. He's got to get out to Vegas. He's got stuff showing up Amazon Prime on his front door, and if it doesn't show up in time, he doesn't know what he's going to do because he needs it to run the village, right? So he needs it. And he gets an email from Amazon that says, hey, your packages have been delayed. And he's like, I run a company that does this for a living. I make my money doing this. And I couldn't click on that link fast enough. And he's like, if I would have taken just a second to look at it, the order was for like crock pots and things that I've never ordered. And the only reason that he caught it was because he doesn't save his password in email forms, but he does save his username to save him time, or not email forms, web forms. And when it sent him to the fake Amazon page, his username wasn't there. And that was enough to short circuit what he talks about in this talk, the amygdala hijack. And that was enough for him to go, wait, something's not right here. So the attack wasn't fully successful, but he was seconds away from it being successful. So if that person can be phished, every single person in this room can, because I'm pretty sure, unless one of you is going to say, no, actually, I have published 7 books on social engineering, and I very much disagree with Mr. Hadnagy and his assumptions. I seriously doubt that. So, which I already covered that slide. So, every team member, so actually, no, I didn't cover that one point, forgive me. Here's the thing. What are we doing, right? We're sending phishing exercises, we send them to a web page, they click on a thing, they do 30 minutes of training, the cycle repeats itself, maybe a bit later you send out other emails, you get the phishing stuff. That's not bad, but we can do better, right? If you think that person who got phished, Chris Hadnagy, can get phished, but you can train every person in your organization, especially if you're at an organization with 15,000, 20,000, 30,000, 100,000 employees deployed globally. Like, I'd love to buy you a beer at some point and hear how you achieve that, but I don't think that's possible. So what we really need to do, I don't know why this buzzed at me. So, what's that?
It's been 45 minutes.
Oh, it's been 45 minutes? Do I have an hour or 40?
Sorry, it's been 30 minutes.
Oh, that's why it buzzes? Okay. Do I have an hour or 45 minutes?
However long you need.
I just talked about 50 minutes. So we need to test the controls. So this is a box of lures, right? Imagine you were protecting fish. You might want to train them to say, hey, those things that don't move like fish but are kind of shiny like fish, don't bite those. Those are ouchie mouth town. Like, don't do that, right? But the fish go, but it looks like food, and I would like to eat it. So then you have to think to yourself, all right, well, if I can't teach the people how to avoid these things, because you can't, the attackers are consistently evolving their techniques, and they only have to be right once. You have to be right in every single permutation, in every single way, every single time. The odds are not in your favor. So we need to test the controls. How do we instead make sure that the lure never gets there? How do we instead make sure that the tactics used by the attacker are the ones that get caught? And this is really what I'm proposing in this concept. So wait a minute, if you're saying I can't do it the way I'm doing it, now how do I test? How do I make sure that these things are okay? Well, a topic that I've been fairly obsessed with recently is security chaos engineering. And if you haven't read this book, it's available through O'Reilly. It's a couple hundred pages. Kelly Shortridge and Aaron Reinhart did a fantastic job of outlining what security chaos engineering is. And I keep wanting to grab this, thinking my jacket's falling. So for the viewers at home, I apologize if you're getting a little static there. So security chaos engineering, in short, is how do we build controls that actually go through and stop an attacker and then test them quantitatively, right? How do I go through and say, let's build a decision tree, and chapter 2 is really where all this is discussed. But how do we make this attacker math work for us? And basically what you do is you say, okay, we're going to start with a phishing exercise. How would an attacker get into our organization via phishing? And they say, oh, well, they would guess our email addresses. Well, then you put a control in place that says if we see people going through and doing spraying in some way to guess email addresses, we detect that somehow and stop them. Now, how that is, I don't know in your organization, depending on what ways you have for people to log in. Then you might go through and say, okay, well, let's say they get the email address. How would they send an email? Okay. Are they sending it through an MX relay? Are they sending it from Office 365? Are they actually sending millions of emails, or are they doing spear phishing? Are they attacking a single person where the first couple sets of emails are perfectly benign? Where it's just having a conversation, and I don't know if you've seen or had to deal with any of these romance scams, where you'll get some random Twitter user reaching out and saying, hey, I'd love to talk to you, or this, that, and the other, and the conversation goes for a while, and then it's like, oh, hey, why don't you check out this webpage, or check out this link with photos of me, or whatever it is, and there's all kinds of joke memes where like some random person reaches out and they're like, just send me the virus link, just let's get this over with. There's lots of funny stuff like that. But what you would do is go through that process, that decision tree. What is the next decision that an attacker makes in a phishing exercise, in an actual phishing attack, where if I put a hurdle there, it sends them down another path. They hit a wall and they go, okay, well, I can't go that way. I can go left or I can go right. And you start defining what left and right looks like and start blocking all their paths until the attack cost gets too high and they say, I'm wasting my time here. There are targets with softer bellies, with less problems, or with more problems, I should say, that I can go attack. So you go through, you think about that, and then I realize that you really can't read this stuff from here. If you're at home, you can zoom in on it, but I'm going to speak to it. If you're unfamiliar with the Mitre attack framework and the Mitre attack navigator, get familiar with it right now. It is an amazing resource put out, and one of the things that everyone focuses on is the techniques. Say, oh, this is how attackers do X, Y, and Z, and what they miss is that when you actually go through and look up well, actually it's tactic, but no, technique. So it's when you go and look up the technique for phishing and you dig into it, it will actually give you examples of different attack groups. Or you can go the other way and say, tell me what Fin7 has been doing. Tell me what APT29 has been doing. What techniques are they using to get into our environment? If they're using phishing techniques and your organization has to deal with APT29, which I think that's China, right? So if you have to deal with APT29 or Fin7, which they went, I think they've been dark for a little bit, but I think they came back. But they're mostly dealing with point-of-sale malware. They've gotten really, really good at getting into Micros and Aloha and all these different systems. Go through, find the group and how they attack, and then look, often there's a reference, and you can go and see, hey, this is how that attack group sends an email. This is the wording they use. These are the types of vectors they're using. In this particular one, they are trying to get a recruiter to respond to a resume, to a job posting. Think about that. Salespeople and recruiters in your organization, if you told them they can't click on links or attachments, PDFs for resumes, they couldn't do their job, period, right? Especially in smaller orgs. Now, if you're at a bigger org, you got brass ring or whatever, you say, hey, go here, upload it, it'll get virus scanned, it'll do all of that. But Wendy Nather has that wonderful line about the security poverty line. Most organizations, and I had to come to this conclusion, I've been blessed that I've been able to work at multi-billion-dollar corporations for a long time, where I can say, yeah, we got to spend $100,000 on this security control. At a lot of organizations, that's the entire IT budget. Forget one security control, right? So these organizations, smaller ones, maybe you work for one of them. You say, oh yeah, we just need to go buy this giant security control, and it'll be about $250,000 and we'll be okay. You can get laughed out of the room. Well, now you have to be a little more surgical. You have to go get that scalpel and say, how can I make what we can do more effective? Now you start thinking about, okay, who is our core attacker? Is it Fin7? Is it APT29? Is it internal? And I know there's a lot of hubbub about, oh, you know, how often are attacks really internal? That we see the insider threat. I know a lot of organizations that have to deal with tip fraud, that have to deal with internal fraud where it's not the CFO stealing a bunch of money, it's the manager that's going through and stealing tips and whatnot. That's still an internal insider threat. Logging in to a system and saying, well, I've got all these employees working for me and there's some like low-level manager at some location who knows where, and they're like, oh, well, I can just break out all these folders with their employment information and I can log in as them and reroute their deposits. And yeah, that happens a lot. And every newly found criminal genius that thinks it's the first time they saw it, I guarantee you there's a corporate fraud team that's going, this crap again. Okay, and they go through and they're like seriously, like someone's going to go, all these people didn't get paid and this one manager got a weekly check for $80,000. I wonder if these things are related. Anyway, these attack groups, you have to go through and outline your threat model. What is actually important to me? In this case, as we're talking about phishing exercises, these are the things that we should be testing for. And this is what I would like to see us go in this direction. Stop turning off your email control systems when you do a phishing exercise. Turn them on. Figure out how you're going to get through that email gateway. Just recently, I went and bought a bunch of fairly look-alike domains for an exercise that I'll be doing, with the idea that I'm letting them bake in for 30, 60, 90 days. I guarantee you, if you have a security gateway for email, one of the things it looks for is, hey, this link, how old's the domain? Was it registered last week? If it was registered 30, 60, 90 days ago, even if it was just sitting there hosting nothing, it already passed that check. Attackers do that all the time. They buy up domains and they sit on them. They put them on a shelf. You need to test that. Figure out if your email system, when you send something through that looks benign because the link is to a domain that you own, that you bought for, some of them I bought for like $3. It was nothing. Because thank you, it was ICANN, I forget which group controls URLs, but they're like, you know what, we're just going to, instead of having .com, .net, we're just going to have, I don't know, all of them, every word in every dictionary as a top-level domain. That'll be good. That'll work. Because no one will actually use them except for attackers and I/O for some reason. External versus internal. This is a huge pet peeve of mine. How many of you who use Office 365? Okay, now people are answering. That's funny. Like, what I would say is that'd be more dangerous than the other thing, right? Like, now I know, okay, all these companies use Office 365. That's my attack vector, but won't click on a link. Okay, I see what kind of crowd we got here. So, how many of you well, I won't ask at this point. Many of you have probably turned on the flag in your email that says, hey, when something's coming from external, tell me it's external, which is one of the things I've got up here, like external, testing the new warning message. Yeah, you know how many emails I get from Office 365 for SharePoint notifications that are external, that are really internal? We've trained our users to ignore that, right? So let's test, hey, when they get this other thing, does it actually do anything, right? Do they actually pay attention to it? DMARC and SPF. If I send emails that fail, does the gateway actually obey it? I'd be willing to bet if you really poked around, unless you've got email like truly centralized, if you really poked around, you'd find out, hey, wait a minute, there's something not right here. Some emails are allowed through. They are allowed to pass. It might be your marketing people. It might be because you've got third-party relationships with things like MailChimp or Constant Contact or whatever it is, right? You've got those relationships, so you've got to allow them to send email as you, but you never set up their records so that they could. Which, by the way, go talk to your marketing people because they'll be that's one of those ways as a security team member you can be a partner. You can go back to them and say, hey, we want to deploy this security control. It's going to be a little challenging, but more of your emails will actually get into inboxes because the other person's inbox will accept them. Get the marketing people to go talk to the executives about why it's important to run this project, to get DMARC and SPF set up properly. Keywords. Load an email up with all kinds of keywords. See if it gets through. See if it's just gibberish. Does it get through? Does the email gateway have any sort of contextual idea of, hey, these are just a bunch of keywords meant to get somebody riled up, or does it actually do something? Or does it block certain keywords? If I say malware, does it actually block it? Should it? Attachments, I don't think I need to go into a lot of detail on that, but can I put attachments in there? And what types of attachments? All right, if I put a text file with a link inside of it that has no hyperlink, no URL, but has instructions to say, hey, I know your system blocks links, so just paste this into the browser. You think there's going to be someone in a million emails that's going to do that? Absolutely. Do you think if they went through and it was a long email chain that they'd been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then suddenly there was business email compromise, and somebody put in that now they control that account, and they say, hey, here's a URL. It's not actually formatted as an HTML URL, but you copy and paste it, and I've got a command and control server. Absolutely. You need to test that. We can test these things quantitatively. So long and short email histories, I talked about that. If you go through and say, hey, we're going to have this super long email history and whatnot, and then hit you with the link, right? Hit you with the virus link. Just send me the virus link. And then text emails versus HTML emails, right? A lot of places, they just turn it off. They say, no, just text email. But have you tested it? Have you actually tested how your email system responds to that? And I also like this. This was one that I haven't tried yet, and I'm really curious what happens. If I put a bunch of legalese, you know how some of us have to put like a block of text at the bottom? It's like, if you received this email incorrectly, blah, blah, blah. I'm actually wonder if gateways are keying off of that. If I've got a bunch of garbage footer, if it goes, well, clearly no sane person would put that there, so this must be legitimate. I talked about the new domains, and then lookalike domains. There's actually a GitHub tool I should have put on there that you can give it a list of your actual real domain names, and it will permutate a bunch of lookalike domains and then actually check to see if those domains are available. And if you want to run a phishing exercise doing that, you can go buy those. Sit on them for 30, 60, 90 days. How does the gateway treat it? In my mind, that is way more valuable than sending an employee an email and saying, hey, your Amazon order's been delayed, and they click on it, oh, you got phished. Yeah, somebody's going to be able to figure out what that hook is for them. So how not to train. These are actual, real splash pages. I literally went into Google Images and said, show me fishing landing pages. Some of you have already chuckled, right? I don't think I put the one up there. If I did, you'll have to tell me, James. No, okay, I didn't think I did. Yeah, I'm sure you do. You stare at a lot of it. He clicks on a lot of links is what I'm saying. No, I'm kidding. No, just what he does for a living exposes him to it. So, do any of these feel good? If you received this and you got this sad-looking fish that, I don't know, maybe had a goth phase. No, he's got a lip piercing. A skull in the hand? Like, how is this going to make you feel? Right. Are you gonna feel like the bard? Or, these do not make you feel good. These do not make you feel like a partner. These do not make you feel like you are part of security. What these make you feel like is that you are a child, or that you should be scared, that you did something incredibly wrong. But guess what? You are the victim. In a real phishing attempt, if you are tricked, you are the victim. And what this does is essentially shames people. I used to be a believer when I was, less gray in the beard, like, oh, let's have a board, like obviously just coming out of college. I'm like, let's have a board of the people who got fished, or let's have a board that says like, what phishing emails did whatever, and that'll get people's attention, and they won't want to be on that board. And that, by the way, is a terrible idea. And no one let me do it, because at the time, I thought it was great, and saner heads were like, no, you're just not doing that. Been a couple years, because what that does is that loses the trust. You heard me talk about trust with the help desk, but it also raises shame. And shame is a problem. So Brene Brown, if you haven't watched this TEDx talk, she's turned her entire career into this. This is like 52 million views on this, and it is all about the power of vulnerability. People and your teams need to feel like they can be safe and vulnerable around you and tell you when something bad has happened, so you as security professionals can fix it. And if you're not doing that, you're not getting the information you need. So this is a great talk just about the power of vulnerability and how we get into these shame spirals where it's like, oh, we messed up, oh, I failed, oh, I didn't do well, and we just spiral down. And if you keep that stuff in mind, we don't need to train people, we need to partner with them. So some of you, and this is really kind of near the end of the talk here, I've got a couple minutes left here. Some of you may have noticed this up here. And I didn't know what size room I was going to be in, so I was going to cast it, but I think I can actually, who wants to actually take a chance on opening this? On here? All right. There you go. Just tear it off. Just rip the thing off. Yeah, there you go. I think it's taped through. If you want to just tear it open, that's fine too. You can tear through the envelope. It's not tearing. That's the first test. Well, I was worried that I was going to have to like whip it across the room. So go ahead and open it. For those at home, you missed our live exercise fishing exercise. So what do we have? Yeah, you got a B-Sides Orlando Order of the Toothy Rin Challenge coin. You got a Black Hills Information Security 1D20 with their logo on it. And you got an Adafruit Trinky, which if you get with me later, I'll show you how, I'll give you the link. Bill Stearns wrote the world's smallest password vault, and you can actually touch it, and it's a generic HID. I left it sealed so you knew I wouldn't tamper with it, or I resealed it. You figure it out. But it's a really cool little device, and you can turn it into a bunch of things. You can turn it into like a Hack 5 style, I'm losing my mind here. Anyway, the Hack 5 where you actually insert it and it becomes a keyboard and actually injects commands, but come see me later and we'll talk about that. Yeah, well, you can use those for that. So now I need to ask you, why did you open that? Right. Well, there you go. I just wanted to be a part of everything. No, but seriously, why did you open it? Think through it. Somebody's got to do it. Okay. So, curiosity. Okay. But I like that somebody's got to do it because we can actually explore that. Somebody in recruiting has to open the PDF. Somebody in the executive admins needs to open their emails. Trust. Yeah. Trust is a great one because we trust me. I actually almost wore my shirt that says "Don't trust me" under my jacket. Yeah, there's trust. what am I actually going to do? Like, you're going to open that and like a tiger's going to pop out? Like, no. Like, I'm not wasting my tiger on this. But that's right, snow white powder. No, that's for later. Anyway, right. So there's trust, right? There's trust. There was curiosity. I liked that answer. Like, what could possibly bad happen here? You are also primed for it. You're here to learn, and I said, hey, who wants to participate in this? You've been primed for it, right? And somebody had to do it, which is the partner, right? We need to partner. Now, you took a chance, so you get the prizes, so there you go. But we need to partner. Instead of sending them to training, send them to a landing page that says, help us stop phishing exercises, and ask them, why did you click on this? Ask them things like, hey, listen, or I should say, go to empathize first. Let them know in the language, hey, anybody can be phished, and we're trying to figure out how to better protect people. What made you click on this email? And ask them things where you're removing that shameful language. You're saying, hey, anybody can be phished? Hey, if you don't think so, here's a link to the TED Talk. Check out this guy who wrote all the books on it. You are a victim here, and what we would like to know is what made you click on that link. So, what did you look for? Did you actually look for anything beforehand? And not in a like, what did you actually look for anything? And more in a, hey, what did you check for before you did this? Because if you checked those things and they passed, then we need to actually build controls. There's a thing called survivorship bias. And if you've ever seen it, it's the photos of a plane, right? And it's flying over, for those that don't know, I think it was World War II or World War I. I think it was World War II, obviously, too, because they didn't have these types of planes in World War I. They had horses with wings. So they didn't have these types of planes. So these planes came back riddled with bullet holes, and they said, aha, we shall put armor where the holes are. And someone said, no, put more armor where the holes aren't, because those aren't the planes that came back. This one came home. It can fly with holes in those parts. So if the email got to them, find out why it got to them. Hey, I checked this. I did everything I was supposed to do, but they just got me at a bad time. I was busy. It's the holiday season. It's the end of quarter, end of year, all that good stuff. Then ask them, hey, how could we help you avoid this? And sometimes feedback I've gotten is like, I have to take this stuff through email, and I've been begging for someone to build us like an upload portal. Like, send this stuff here, send it through all the virus scans and whatnot you want, and centralize it so I don't get a million emails. Oh, okay, I'm ready to take the security bat over to whoever needs to build this and go, guess what? We're building stuff today. When you do that, when you get that feedback, that says, hey, thanks for educating me, thanks for not making me feel like an idiot, and one, thanks for hearing my problem, and not saying, hey, you clicked on this link, go take this 15 minutes of education. And I'm not saying that, again, is bad. We do still need to educate people, because there's people that might not know, right? But if you collect all that information in a form and solve somebody's business problem in the process, they're going to bring you every challenge and everything. They go, hey, did you know that this other thing happens too? That we're sending this info through here and blah, blah, blah? No, I didn't. Let's go find out how we can solve that too. Do you think that's more effective than trying to get your 15,000 users to never, ever, ever, ever click on a link? Yeah, I think so. So, last couple slides here. We're about at an hour, which is about where I wanted to be. But this is a preview of a talk, like I mentioned. In September, I will be publishing a GitHub called Ethical Fisheries, and in it, I will be putting templates for the Go Fish framework and empathetic, shame-free landing page templates and how to use them to say, hey, here's a campaign you can run that the person doesn't feel like a fool when they click on it. Here's a campaign you can run that doesn't make them click on it because it's the holidays, because it's, your grandmother's been kidnapped and whatever it is. I actually meant to say like nephew, which is a thing. They'll look on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, see that a grandchild is traveling, then do OSINT, find the grandparent and call and say, oh, we're with the Irish police or we're with the Hungarian police and your grandson's been arrested, you need to wire $1,000 now, because if you don't, we can't get them out of this trouble, and if they get further along, we won't be able to get it. So that's the thing. You don't want to do that. And then I'll also be publishing inside of there types of campaigns that you can configure to say, hey, when you configure this campaign, configure an A/B test. Send the email with a domain that's been 30 days. Send an email with one that's been 60 days, one that's 90, one that fails, one that doesn't. And if you do that, depending on the emails that click through, you'll know which technical controls aren't working. So I'm going to have that up in September. I'm polishing it right now. So in summary, people can and will be phished. If they lose trust in you, your job will be infinitely harder. Infinitely harder. Test the controls, not the people, right? I can get someone to do something if I need them to as an attacker. I have all the tools at my disposal. So test the controls. Find a way to partner with them. And then gather feedback in that empathetic way. And if you're at home and you're here, or you hear all this and go, man, I'm just not where I need to be in security, and I don't know if I belong here, you do belong here, and we need you. So, final thought. My career is that of curiosity. And when you go back to your businesses, remember, never know, always yes if. Yes, you can do that if you do these things. And if you ever wonder why the businesses aren't listening to you, always remember that businesses are in the business of taking risks. They wouldn't be a business if they weren't. So you have to talk to them in terms of risk that is not only palatable, but works for them. James already covered all this stuff. Please, 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 the Orlando Bite-Size CFB, you have a better than average chance of getting in right now. I'm dead serious. And what that is that he talked about, if you're listening at home, wherever you are, you will get to be on stream live with people like Ian Coldwater, with people like Deviant Olaf, with people like Hannah Kane and Jose Rodriguez, all experts in the field. Jose is a fellow at Lockheed Martin in embedded system security. A fellow, and for those of you in academia, know what that means. They are smart, and they will get a challenge that they have never seen. And they will be your coach to help work through it with you. So really cool stuff. And that's it. That's me. 3 minutes over. Yeah. So that's me. Reach out to me. I've got business cards here as well. I can take some questions if you'd like. But that's the end of this. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully it was enjoyable. Thank you for having me. Yes?
I find that people are more careful now than they used to be in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I send out a fair amount of email that doesn't get, any feedback whatsoever. You're calling now and people are saying, oh yeah, I wasn't sure, or that ended up in my, the wrong
Spam folder or
mailbox
junk folder,
whatever,
yeah.
Exactly. And so I rarely let things go for more than a day and a half or 2 days before I follow up with something. So I think people are trying to do better.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. People are absolutely trying to do better. We are training them better. We're building it better. And also keep in mind that the workforce is primarily people that have grown up in the internet age now. Before, maybe 10 years ago, maybe it was 50-50. Whatnot, where they didn't grow up with email, they didn't grow up with these things. Maybe they worked in more of this is not a pejorative statement, I'm saying, more of a blue-collar job where it was like, I get in my truck, I drive this from here to here, and I don't need a computer, I fill it out on carbon paper, and then someone goes, here's a tablet, you've been doing this for 20 years, now you need to pay attention to email and text message and this and that and tracking and all that different stuff. And they don't know this. This hasn't been a part of their lives forever. So those are the people that, we absolutely have to protect. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes?
How often do you do these tests? Or to the point where you're talking about over fishing the air,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And and like I said, before the game.
Yeah.
For these quantitative results over the year that's going up or down.
Right. Well, it depends on your organization, right? So when you say like how often am I doing them, how often I might do them to be effective versus how often you might do them in your organization to be effective are two different things. But I would answer your question with a question. What you need to figure out is you need to go to your management team and understand what success looks like. And say, hey, if we're going to go through and do this exercise, is what you want to see partnership? and a qualitative result, you see people bringing things to security more, or do you want to see a hard number where it's, I send out this many emails, this many people click, 3 months later I send out this many emails, this many people click. You have to understand what your leadership sees as success. And if you're in more of a hospitality industry, it might be the first one. If you're in more of a finance and business industry, it might be the second. So, I can't answer your question. I would say do it as much as your business will tolerate, but not so much that what you end up doing is everyone's always waiting for it as a fish, right? Because as soon as they let their guard down, that's when you find out what actually works. If someone comes in and says, hey, security's showing up tomorrow, to anyone who's ever worked in a factory shop, it's like, oh, the OSHA people are coming. Put everything away that's dangerous, right? Like everyone actually do, and I pick on OSHA, but that's the reality, right? So hopefully that answers your question, the best answer I have.
And over time, people are gonna work around it.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll freely admit, I've got rules on my mailbox that look at the message headers because we use the same company, and it immediately flags it, marks it, puts it into a container. So it never hits my inbox, and I know it came in.
Oh, that's funny. No, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's funny. Yes, over here.
I work for a defense contractor years
Mhm.
ago. We got hit with a small spearfish eating.
Okay.
I was one of the unfortunate ones that clicked on it.
Mhm.
We realized it was a fish.
Mm.
Started digging into it. 2 hours later, we get a phone call from the FBI. We're coming tomorrow to seize your hard drives for investigation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's funny. Yeah, no, and I realize we're hybrid, and I forgot that we are. I should have been saying the questions back. I won't repeat them at this point. But I mean the idea that hey, this looked like what I took from that was you received what you thought was a phishing email, and it very much was not. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Okay. Oh, you're saying it was a spearfish, and the FBI was then like.
When we started researching where it came from, we tripped something that the FBI was monitoring.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
You know, it took them 2 hours to get
Yeah.
in touch with us.
Oh, wow.
That was the amazing part.
Right.
The government actually does something.
There you go. All right. Yes.
So, on the topic of shading.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So is there a threshold in which there is that come Jesus stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think yes, there is, but I've heard that your question's been raised before when I've dealt with this. I was like, well, if we're not going to fire them, then what do we do? And what I always raise is, do you really legitimately have someone who's like every phishing campaign, they every single time they're just all over it? And then the question you have to ask yourself as a company, is that a risk that you're willing to accept? Like, remember at the beginning of the talk, I said, if this is a salesperson who generates millions of dollars in revenue for you, are you really going to fire them? Chances are no matter how many times they click on it. But if you ask yourself instead, what can we do to nerf this person? Because clearly they do a good job doing whatever they're doing, but email is not their strong suit. I don't mean to sound, I don't know how to say this without, we decided a long time ago that it was important that people with disabilities be able to access the workforce, and that is important, right? So in my mind, saying, hey, you're just available and you're going to fall for this, that doesn't mean you're disabled. That's not where I'm going with this. But what I'm saying is you can put them in a role that accommodates for them and say, you're important, you're that valuable resource in the organization. Let's put you in a role where you don't have to click on as much email because we want you here, but maybe email's just not something that you should be getting from the outside. Maybe just internal emails, or maybe you're in Slack or you're in Discord. Let's figure out a way to keep you in the organization where you can do the valuable work you do without worrying about this thing that maybe you've got a problem with. I'm terrible with email, by the way. Everyone that works with me, if I pulled up my email right now, I guarantee there's 1,000 emails. I don't do it. I'm very bad at it. I know this. But I'm also very good at the other things I do, so my management is like, all right, I just have to text him. Like, whatever. So that being said, I want to summarize because I want to get James back up here unless there's other questions. I've never been to the point where there's been someone like that. I think it's a good academic discussion, but I can't imagine a scenario where the person falls for every single phishing, unless you were targeting them specifically. You know, maybe, I don't know. If you can feel free to grab me later and go, no, we have this person, and every time they do it. That's, to steer you in the right direction, you would want to have that conversation with your HR partner or someone like that to say, when is a threshold that we want to, you know, move away from this? Yeah.
You want to have a policy,
Mhm.
and that's what's going to do
Absolutely.
7 strikes and you're out.
I think one more question? Sure. One more? Okay.
So you have this focus on email that you keep reiterating, but a lot of companies are moving away from email towards Slack, Discord, and other things.
Mhm.
And as my company grows, they're inviting more external vendors and everything else into the fold. So is there any way to kind of tailor the phishing towards those applications instead of the email?
That is a great question. So for those at home, this one I will remember to repeat. If you didn't hear it, it's, hey, this has been focused on email. What about all these other communication methods? Slack, Discord, Jira, you know, all these things that potentially are public that get this ability to integrate in with other vendors and whatnot. And the short answer is, I think the techniques still apply. The overall framework still applies. You can say, let's make a decision tree. If I was an attacker, how would I get a Slack message to this person? How would I get a federated Teams message to this person? And then how do I block it? Like, I've used systems where Teams will tell me, hey, this message is coming from someone external, even though it looks like a regular chat, right? Maybe that's valuable. Maybe when someone's federated, they're not allowed to pass anything that isn't text. You know, they can't send you an image, a pic, or anything like that. And you test those controls. So again, it's what are the decision trees that go into how an attacker would use this? Formulate roadblocks for it. Test those roadblocks quantitatively to see when they work and when they don't. Did it get through? Did it not? How do we change the control to make sure that doesn't happen again? And then iterate over and over again. I don't think the method necessarily changes the process.
But there's no like built-in framework to do the other, correct?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, there might be. I was just talking to somebody about, I was configuring my Hack5 SharkJack, and I was doing an on-site assessment, and I configured it for something very basic. I just wanted to be able to walk up to a network port that was open, like this one is not open, but plug something in and have it phone home to my C2 server and tell me what the internal and external IP address was. And then I could note, okay, when I'm in this room, I'm on this subnet, I'm on this subnet, I'm on this subnet, on this subnet, and figure out, hey, is there a physical room in the building that puts me on a protected subnet that is actually open that I can get to, right? Some sort of corp, whatever. And in browsing through it, I started looking at the recon stuff, and I saw someone had actually built an exfil over Slack, and I was like, ooh, because I thought of like all the companies that have got Slack allowed out to Slack's cloud because they've got remote employees and all this different stuff, and I'm like, you'd never see it. And you can have your own Slack and your own group and your own whatever in your own private channel, and it just exfils the data right into the private channel, and I was just like, oh my God, I don't know what we're doing about that. So yeah, that's definitely happening. Attackers will always, like electricity, they will find the path of least resistance. So again, thank you for your time. I'm going to give it back to James here. Appreciate it.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Oh yes, I suppose you need that. You don't want to talk and stuff.
So usually when I sit and wait on or sit and listen to our speaker, so with Ian, I usually have an opportunity to go through and kind of fix some things. So yeah, I had the Ian Meyers, and he said something about being plural, so I figured, there we go, there's multiple Ian Meyers on the screen. And then I corrected it, so there you go. So you talked about phishing, which is what I deal with on a day-to-day basis.
I did not call out your specific company.
No, I know, but I'm calling them out.
Take my tip later.
No, I will call them out. So as an employee of Know4, I get phished at least twice a week, at least, if not more so. And it was a few weeks ago, and it was 11:59, and I was connected into a Zoom meeting. So a little OPSEC, you know what we use. I was connected in a Zoom meeting, waiting on a customer because I'm going to give a presentation to our organization, waiting on her to connect. And the weird thing is when I'm in my meetings, I have everything turned off. Well, my phone was on the charger in front of me, but it popped up that I had somebody waiting in the Zoom call. And I'm like, are you kidding me? She's got the wrong link? Okay, so I go into my email, open it up, see that there's that Zoom email. It says somebody's waiting, and I click on it. And I'm like, okay, she's in the wrong one. All right, let me get in the right one. So I click on it. Up pops up our know before login screen. And I'm like, son of a... Yep, go in, back into the email, and hover over the link, and sure enough, it was one of our phishing ones. Now, I clicked on the link. What they were looking for then is for me to enter my credentials. Once I got that far, I knew I was already logged in with Zoom because I was there. Now, the interesting thing is going back to your question earlier, what made me open it? A lot of it came down to I was in a rush. I had somebody waiting on me. I had a customer. So it was like, okay. Now, when I went back and looked at it a little further down in the email, it was said, it was an external link. I was like, ah. So that was my lesson of, okay, check every single link that comes through. But ironically, if that email had showed up 5 minutes earlier, if it had showed up 5 minutes later, there's no way I would have clicked on it. But they got me at the right time. So our organization does ask for feedback when we click on our phishing links. And it goes, what can you share with us? What was going on? Were you in a rush? Were you thinking of something else? And I said, if this was timed because you knew I had a Zoom meeting, I think we have bigger fish to fry because if the attacker knew that I had a meeting, they already had access to my calendar. So there's bigger fish we have at hand here. Well, the interesting thing is the way we handle it, it didn't pop up and says, oh, you've been fished, hook in the mouth, the way Cofence does it. Oh, oops, sorry. No, what it was is about 10 minutes later, you get an email from our training group that says, okay, here's your remedial training. Go ahead and take it. So I did the training right there on the spot. Then they give you a quiz, and I'm like going through, and it's like the CISSP all over again. You're sitting there going, okay, I know it's this answer, but it could be this one, and it's just, and I'm sitting there going, if I get any of these wrong, I am not going to hear the end of it from the training group because they know me and they know what I do. So, yeah, so we all get fished, but there's my fishing story. It's the only like I said, we get 2 or 3 a week. Out of the year and a half I've been at Know Before, that was the first one that got me on. So, yeah. Just a little humor for the end of the night. By the way, I don't know if you guys realize, but I was able to hack into Forrest Gump's computer. I guessed his password. It was 1Forrest1. Anybody want to know why Superman doesn't fight cybercrime? He's afraid of cryptocurrency. All right, so I will end the dad jokes there. But I have a whole new book, thank you to Jerry, so I will come for... There's 2 books, yes. I have plenty of fodder to go for a while. So
in the absence of meeting in person, you've been studying dad jokes.
Yeah, they're all on my deck. They're all on my slide decks now. Yes, yes. When all you have to do is all you have is a camera to look at and maybe some faces, maybe, not even that. So a lot of the presentations have chats, so I can see the eye rolls, the groans. Wild West Hack and Cast, when I did that one, they had a Discord server. And the memes that came flying up of the face palms and the groans, I was like, yes.
You'll live with this.
Yeah. So we are set to... Oh, by the way, there is no, surprise, there is no second speaker. So essentially, at this point, we have registration open. I heard from Robert earlier. We have registration open on Eventbrite for our meeting for next month. So you're welcome to go register. Again, we're going to be back here, right, David? We should be good to go. So we'll be back here. That'll be not the 4th, not the 23rd. It'll be the 30th. Because if you want to run it, the 23rd, I'm on a cruise. So...
What?
I'm gonna brave and get on a cruise ship. Yeah, it's my wife's birthday, so I said, come on, we'll go on a cruise. So we're gonna go brave the open seas, and we got our vaccine. We're good. All right, I'll stand in the back. Yeah, I get back on Friday. You guys will be all right. So we'll do the next meeting will be August 30th. We'll be here. We'll do. We got to for all those folks that are watching virtually. The board and myself need to regroup. There was a lot of effort and work to put this in, to do this virtually, so we want to just kind of review that and see kind of how, whether we do it this setup again, because I had to drag poor Wes out from, all of his studying and everything else, and you ought to see the rig, the setup we have back here to do this. So a couple monitors, microphones. We're using the gracious Wi-Fi of the school, so one option is we record it and post it, and then but we're still working out those logistics. So, but if you want to get free food, come on out to the meeting next month. So, don't have a speaker yet, but we'll get one soon. Yeah, so I want to thank everybody that's here. I want to thank all those folks that are watching. Appreciate y'all coming out, and have yourselves a good night. We're out? Cool. All right, now the fun starts.